Hello, good morning. It's the 3rd of March. You're welcome to the AM News. After 167 days of forced leave, Auditor General Daniel Domelevo is due back at post today to resume his role as the Chief Auditor of the government purse. There's, however, a hitch. He's been told disparities and anomalies in his personal records with the state suggests he's supposed to have retired last year. Here's a background to the matter in this News Desk report.
Corruption will fight you back. But when you fight corruption, you will be acknowledged.
Daniel Domelevo with his infamous quote during an interview following his decision to surcharge former senior minister Yao Osafo-Maafo for allegedly breaching the Public Procurement Act that resulted in their payment of $1 million to a private UK firm, Kroll and Associates. Mr. Osafo-Maafo then sued the Auditor General and 4 other officials of the Finance Ministry to clear their names. His was one of many state entities Mr. Domelevo was investigating, but on June 29, 2020, President Akufo-Addo directed him to proceed on his accumulated annual leave of 123 working days. The presidency had relied on sections 20 and 32 of the labor law and also a precedent set by former President Atta Mills when he asked the then Auditor General Edward Dua-Agyemang to proceed on leave. But the move was criticized by some civil society organizations which read meanings into the decision.
The president has no power to exercise any control, disciplinary, whatever, financial, administrative, managerial, none.
Days after this directive, Mr. Domelevo wrote back to the presidency urging President Akufo-Addo to reconsider the directive as it was unconstitutional. Daniel Domelevo said he had observed that his work was embarrassing the government. Following this letter, the presidency extended his leave by an additional 44 days. Government maintained the decision of the president was well grounded in law.
A sitting president has exercised the powers under the Labour Act, reference to somebody in the audit service in this manner. I do not recall civil society groups coming together to do a press conference.
Several pressure groups, political parties, and civil society organizations, including Occupy Ghana, CDD, the NDC, and anti-corruption campaigners, including Vitus Azim, spoke against the directive and urged the president to recall the Auditor General from his leave.
First, we believe the decision of the president is not proper and needs to be reconsidered. The action gravely weakens the president's fight against corruption.
US-based Ghanaian lawyer Professor Kweku Asari took the campaign a notch higher when he sued the Attorney General and 2 others over this directive, arguing it was illegal and inconsistent with the letter and spirit of Article 1877 of the 1992 Constitution. Within the first month of proceeding on leave, the locks on Mr. Domelevo's office were changed on the instructions of the Audit Service Board chaired by Professor Dua-Agyemang.
Yeah, but the key cannot even enter. How do you see that? It was flat like this, and they've changed it to this one.
Professor Dua-Agyemang defended this action, saying the move was to secure the office.
There is a problem about the office, the locks. The board has every right to make sure that the place is secure.
After 167 days on leave, Daniel Domelevo is expected to return tomorrow, March 3, 2021, to continue his work. What remains to be seen is what will become of the legal action taken in his defense following the president's directive.
And that was a News Desk report. We'll be sharing with you correspondence between the Auditor General and the Audit Service on this issue later here on the AM show. And of course, whether or not Mr. Domelevo will show up to work today. Elsewhere, 12 more persons in Parliament have tested positive for COVID-19. This was after retesting of some 550 members of Parliament and parliamentary service staff before the House resumed sitting from a 3-week break following the outbreak of the virus in the House. Speaker of Parliament Alban Gbagben made this announcement when sittings resumed on Tuesday.
The retesting revealed that out of a total of 550 MPs and staff, who retested, only 12 tested positive and are currently in isolation. Majority of them were auxiliary staff. This represents a positivity rate of 2%, which compares favorably with the national positivity rate of between 10 to 12%. It is my expectation that all honorable members and staff who are required to retest actually do submit themselves for the testing. As shown by the results of the retesting, the measures we put in place, including the 3-week break, have enabled our colleagues who were exposed to the virus to overcome the infection. For those of us who are not so exposed, it has been an opportunity for us to reassure ourselves of our status. As we resume today, I believe we will all endeavor to adhere to the time-tested protocols that the COVID-19 pandemic requires of all of us.
Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo is expected to address Parliament on the State of the Nation next week, Tuesday. Here's Speaker again.
The House will also be privileged to receive His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who is obligated by Article 67 of the Constitution to deliver to Parliament a message on the state of the nation at the beginning of each session of Parliament and before a dissolution of Parliament. His Excellency has given an indication to me that he is ready to meet the obligation on Tuesday, 9th March 2021. Still within this meeting, in accordance with Article 179 of the Constitution, His Excellency has given further indication that he is caused to be prepared and is ready to be presented and laid before this House the budget for the 2021 financial year on Friday, 12 March 2021 for consideration and approval.
Away from Parliament, the Food and Drugs Authority says it will, in the next 10 days, complete findings on the evaluation of 2 vaccines from India and China. Already, work on the Sputnik vaccine from Russia is far advanced. According to the authority, work has been done quickly to guide the purchase of the vaccines. Head of the FDA, Delis Mimi Dako, says the authority has taken delivery of other vaccines for evaluation. She spoke at the press launch of the COVID-19 vaccination exercise in the Ashanti region.
On another vaccine that is called the Sputnik vaccine from Russia. Once we do the evaluation to ensure that it is of the right vaccine, the ministry will do the purchasing. We also have another 2 vaccines, one from India, one from China, that we are evaluating. As soon as we've done this, we'll let the minister know, and then they can go ahead with all the other plans for making sure the vaccine is available. So that means that we have about 4 at the moment. We're also in discussion with another 3 more companies. And once they bring their documentation, we'll evaluate it. When we do this sort of thing in a pandemic, we use not more than 15 days. That means people work even Saturday and Sunday to review their documentation. So in a pandemic, we review this in 15 days. So in the next 10 days, we would have finished with the other 2 and let you know whether it is good to use or it is not good to use. It is not automatic that we will by all means approve the vaccine. We, as the Food and Drugs Authority, we are what you call a maturity level 3 agency listed by the WHO. We are also a regional center of excellence. There is no way that will allow a vaccine that is not safe, that is not of the right quality, to be used on Ghanaians. So just to assure you, the vaccine is safe, it is efficacious, it is right that we use it to ensure that we can vaccinate as many of the population to enable us attain what we call herd immunity and bring the coronavirus down. If we don't, it will run wild in this country, and we don't want that to happen. So just be assured that even after you use the vaccine, we are still monitoring. There are very few side effects to this vaccine. The side effects to this vaccine are actually very mild. They are the normal side effects that you would get when you use any other vaccine. A bit of chills, maybe a bit of headache, but within 1 to 2 days, it is gone. Even after that, we have a good safety monitoring system in place that will ensure that everybody who is vaccinated will be followed up to ensure that if they experience any of these mild side effects, it will be reported to us. It will be managed by the Ghana Health Service team, and we will put it in our database, just so that we have a database for Ghanaians. So,
let's head now to the northeast region, where police have arrested an entertainment prefect of the Nalerigo Nursing and Midwifery College for violating COVID-19 rules by organizing a dancing competition on the school campus. The police confirmed that the student leader was arrested Monday and taken into custody following an invitation by the principal of the college over the matter. Correspondent Elias Otanko has more.
As of this morning, what we have done is to invite the principal of the training college in the person of Valentin Ayamba. So he was invited and we have questioned him. He actually confirmed that indeed such a program took place, but it was done without the school's approval. In other words, the school authority did not approve of such a program. And but he indicated to us that on the Saturday evening, he himself was in office when he saw signs that the students were about organizing an entertainment program, of which he called out the entertainment prefect, who was championing affairs at the time, and asked him not to go ahead with any program because of the restrictions regarding COVID-19. And so he, having done that, he thought that that could be the end of it. However, the program continued until close to 10 p.m. thereabout, that he finally came with one other person to actually put a halt to it. But between the early hours, like 7:30 p.m. to that 10 p.m., some program had taken place, and there was quite a mass gathering over there. And so he made mention of the entertainment prefect, whom we have also invited, and presently he is with us. We are interrogating him to ascertain why he did so in contravention with the restriction orders.
The students on Saturday night organized a competition which brought together hundreds of people despite COVID-19 restrictions. The crime officer said the entertainment prefect was arrested because the school principal named and identified him as the one responsible for the organization of the illegal event. And when questioned by the police, according to the crime officer, the entertainment prefect admitted but claimed he organized the event to prevent rioting and agitation by the students on campus.
According to this entertainment prefect, I will not be able to put the details out for now because of the investigation which has just commenced. But then he says he was organizing an entertainment program for the first year students who have reported barely a month ago and who complained about having paid entertainment fees, but nobody is entertaining them at the school. So he decided that he wants to organize such a program for them in order to calm down their kind of agitations. Yes.
With the police already in possession of several evidence of the program, the crime officer indicated the police will, based on the outcome of the ongoing investigation, to make a determination on whether or not to press formal charges and prosecute the suspect, who is currently behind bars.
When we come to the end of the conclusion, in the end of the investigation, we will determine what final action we should be taking against him. We could take him to court. It could take another form of action. It could be a warning, judging from the point of from the fact that he is a student. It could be any other thing that we will make a decision on.
And to our last story, the Bono East Regional Immigration Command has arrested some 80 persons suspected to be Togolese nationals for allegedly entering the country through illegal routes. The operation, according to the Immigration Service, forms part of ongoing effort to enhance the border closure directive by government to contain the coronavirus pandemic in the country. This brings to a total of 147 foreign nationals intercepted by the Regional Command between February and early March this year. Correspondent Anas Sabit has more in the following report.
A total of 67 foreign nationals were intercepted in the month of February by the Bono East Regional Immigration Command, even though Ghana's borders remains closed as part of measures to stop the spread of the COVID-19 disease. Bono East Regional Immigration Commander Chief Superintendent E.A. Ano disclosed this exclusively to Joy News.
We of the Bono East Regional Command of the Ghana Immigration Service have noticed that some group of people, or let me say agents, have been bringing people through the unapproved routes to transit at Techiman to various towns. So we decided to mount surveillance and to ensure that such people do not come into Techiman or even remain in Techiman. On the 9th, we arrested 42 Nigerians who had come all the way from Niger through Buriyanga, and they were on their way to Côte d'Ivoire. We also arrested 25 Togolese nationals who have also entered Ghana. They were also traveling to Côte d'Ivoire, and we had to repatriate them.
The Immigration Command, in collaboration with the police, had also arrested 80 persons from neighboring Togo who are suspected to have been in the country through unapproved routes.
To my surprise, this morning, with a collaboration that we had with the police, we were able to arrest 80 Togolese nationals who had entered Ghana through unapproved routes along the Bumprugu area, and they were also on their way to Côte d'Ivoire.
The agent suspected to be administering the influx of these 80 Togolese nationals is currently in the grips of the security and would assist with investigations.
Fortunately, we had the agent who tried to bribe my officers with 1,000 Ghana cedis for them to let them go. But my officers, I must say, were smart and did not allow that. So currently we have profiled them, though the agent has coached them as to what to say. We've realized that they are from Togo. We have notified our point at Bumprugu, and we intend to send them back to the other side of Ghana.
Chief Superintendent Ano, however, cautioned the public, especially the Muslim community, to be watchful of strangers who get into their various communities.
I want to advise my fellow Muslims. The interception of the Nigerians, in the afternoon, some of them went to the mosques to pray. And I believe we don't know what they have come in with. And that the imams of the various mosques should be very careful.
And that's it for the news. Of course, we've got plenty of news on myjoyonline.com, but Benjamin and myself will be back in a little while to review the newspapers. One of the stories in the Ghanaian Times newspaper, well, a pastor who posed as a police detective and took money from a senior high school graduate, promising that he would enlist him into the police service, is back in court with 3 more fresh charges. We'll give you an update on that and some other stories in the newspapers. Stay with us. Well, thank you for staying with us here on the AM show. Time for us to dig into the newspapers. We'll tell you what's making headlines. So if you just joined us, well, welcome. But before we start the newspapers, we've got a huge birthday dedication. It's to you, Professor John Japong, Vice Chancellor, University of Health and Allied Sciences. It's your big birthday today. Because of COVID-19, we can't ask where the party is, but enjoy yourself. Have a...
Where the party day?
Have a wonderful birthday today, Prof. Enjoy your birthday. Happy birthday to you. From all of us, the entire AM show, to you, Professor John Japon, Vice Chancellor, University of Health and Allied Sciences. If you know him, kindly give him a call. Tell him how much you love him. We, on the show, we love you so much, sir. Enjoy your birthday. All right. And ready?
Ready as ever. And today is a bit of a day that...
the Lord has made.
That has got me thinking about so many things. You know how many years it's been? It's been about 49, 50 years now since the Salah case. E.K. Salah. Versus the Attorney General.
You're going back to citizenship.
Exactly.
You're going back to who a Ghanaian is.
So many things running through my mind this morning, and it's just beginning to get a bit unrelatable for me, unbelievable for me. The story of Daniel Yao Domelevo. You know, the man, I don't want to take the wind out of your sail, but when he was leaving on this forced leave, he was Ghanaian. He returns and he's Togolese. Isn't that amazing?
Well, he's alleged to be, isn't it?
And he's stating in the letter, I mean, in his communications, that audit service, you are not clothed with the authority to do this. They are saying, but you work with us. And in fact, it is our duty to ensure that these matters are straightened. For how long did we know that the man supposedly was Togolese? And if certain things hadn't happened, would we be here?
Oh my God. Well, I see where you're going with this. I see where you're coming with this. And the issue is the fact that Yao Domelevo, the Auditor General, who was forced to take his leave, he went on leave for over 100 days.
Don't forget the top up.
150 days.
He was given a top up. Let's top up. Let's give you, relax.
Well, he's supposed to be back as Auditor General of the country today. But of course, yesterday, correspondence between himself and his board came out, and it turns out that they say that there's some anomalies with his date of birth and also his citizenship. And so, per the date of birth that they've cited,
that supposedly he gave the first time he was signing on to the SNIT, scheme.
Yeah, he gave his date of birth as 1960. So he should have retired last year. Well, he went on leave last year, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess we had not discovered this. Otherwise, we would have just asked him.
I heard one member of parliament even suggesting that when people are that good at the work they do, even in the audit service, they are even retained. They are given more time because it's difficult to get people like that. In this instance, we're rather saying, what time, Maso? What is your problem?
Yeah, in fact, if you look at their acts, yes, you can get some more, because you can go for
it's done in the public
terms,
sector.
And then you can get an extension as well, if they, of course, think that you deserve it. But in this case, we've actually been looking forward to retiring him. And so we
when you say we, who are
the state, isn't it? I mean, the appointing authority is the president. The letter for him to proceed on leave came from the president. And if you look at this correspondent, and later on we'll dig into it, if you look at the correspondent, it says that they're notifying the president of what they have discovered, and they're forwarding the document to the president and advising the president to take action. You get it? So, I mean, it's us. The president takes an action, it's on all of us, it's the states. So after we discovered that he had accrued leave, we asked him to go on leave. Now we've discovered again, just when he was expected
after we discovered that he needed more days.
Now we've discovered that, he should have retired last year.
And we even discovered that apparently Domelevo was not even Ghanaian, supposedly. We even discovered that.
As for that one, as for the
miracles,
the Ghanaian bit, You can be Togolese and be Ghanaian as well. Nothing stops you.
I am actually stunned because, look, when you look at even the ever grouping, let's just pick that, in West Africa, you have them in the Ivory Coast, in Benin, in Togo, in Ghana. They spread across. They are all, you know, it's one contiguous group, of course, in different areas. Yes, there are things to consider when you talk about citizenship per the Constitution and all of that. But, Mama V, I'm bringing this up because I feel if it were the other side, we would want to make noise as well. When Atta Mills did it with reference to what happened during his tenure, may his soul rest in peace, we spoke up about it. And this, my problem is, it's following a certain trajectory that for me is a bit too startling. It's almost as though this were no longer about the truth and the core principles, almost as though it were now about, you know what, this is what we want in the end, and someone's head must roll. And I'll just end with this, perception. We have a corruption perception index. It doesn't necessarily state that this is the state of corruption in a country, but it's the perception of it. And perception can be very dangerous, especially when it's negative. We're going down a slippery slope as a country, and especially if we get into political tit for tat. You do me, I do you. You did this during your tenure, I come and I do this. Where will we end up?
Well, I think that one thing is clear. We want Domolovo out, and that's what it is. So we will find, you know, all the necessary means to get him out. But listen, we will have a longer conversation on the back of this later on here on the air. Sure, and of course,
I have to be very
we'll keep an eye there. Is he going to the office today? Hello? Oh, they changed his locks the last time he was on leave.
Oh, yeah, this time I'm sure they changed the target. But,
yeah.
Are you Ghanaian?
I am Ghanaian.
Relax.
As far as
think through it, because you just might not be Ghanaian.
Listen,
because you cry. I don't know whether you qualify.
If you want to know if you're Ghanaian or not, just go back to the Constitution. See, there's nothing above that, and it says that if you were here before the 1992 Constitution came into being.
Into force.
Yes. You're Ghanaian. If you're Ghanaian before the Constitution, of course you're Ghanaian.
All Ghanaian be Ghanaian.
If you have a parent, it could be a grandparent or, you know, your parents being Ghanaian, you're Ghanaian. So, you know, it's a long, and there are certain people, by the way, who can hold certain public offices.
Yeah.
When I checked it yesterday, it did not include the Auditor General. So that's why I said, you know, in terms of like whether you're Ghanaian or not, and you can be a foreigner and still get pension benefits.
Yeah.
So you can be on SNIT as an expat in Ghana. So, you know, but of course, let's also be fair. Granted that what the Audit Service Board has discovered is true,
yes.
and
yes.
there are anomalies, because that's what they say in the date of birth, and he
part of which he's tried to explain.
He should have retired last year.
Right.
Then should he still be in office now? Should he resume? You get it?
So this, like I was saying, it reminds me of the case law, not just Salah versus the Attorney General, but you know there have been other cases. I just forget the names of the cases, but even some Lebanese Ghanaians and all of that who have had to go through these systems, some land issues and all of that, just to prove. And then, you know, citizenship comes to question. It will be interesting to look at some of those. For me, I want to see this matter go to court. I want to see the court decide like it did with the Salah case.
Because I already went to court.
On
the leave issue, the Supreme Court has not dealt with that yet, so we hope that. But if indeed he was not qualified to be there, and he's been there as Auditor General all this while, and SNIT actually also made corrections on his date of birth, then a whole lot of people must be resigning because they've all failed us as a state. A whole lot of people. They didn't do due diligence, and the man had been there as Auditor General.
Yeah.
It's not as easy or simple as, after all this.
So I totally agree. Then all of you in the chain.
Exactly. What kind of work did you do?
And maybe we would be looking at the nominating authority, the former president, and also looking at the authority that kept him in office and even allowed him to go on leave with all the benefits, the current president. Yeah. Maybe we should be asking ourselves all these questions.
We are consolidated. The fund where we take the money to pay Mr. Domelovo is for all of us. It's the consolidated.
So they've caused financial loss to
They owe us. Charlie, we'll get into this a bit later.
And just to wrap up, so now to prove your citizenship in some ways, your birth certificate might not. So if you have a passport, you have a Ghana card, does that guarantee your... Because I've seen a lot of people asking on social media, are we strangers in our own land or are we Ghanaian? I mean,
but you know, I would have really appreciated it because we know that the Audit Service Board Chair has issues with the Auditor General, Daniel Domelovo. I would have appreciated in terms of the anomalies with the SNIT. It's interesting that SNIT didn't come out with this. SNITO didn't come out with it, but it is the board of the audit service that made this discovery.
Is that board still functioning?
On behalf of
still functional?
Yesterday I heard the auditor, the board chair say that yes, they're back in office. The board was inaugurated, I think, sometime in October. We're still trying to figure that out.
I see.
Yeah. So SNIT didn't do this, so it is the Audit Service Board that is bringing this discovery.
It's not as though SNIT came up and said, there are anomalies. We went in.
So, you know, it is really extremely difficult to change your date of birth.
Exactly.
After SNIT has taken your initial...
affidavits, a whole process that must be...
I was even told that they will actually have to set up a certain committee. You have to appear and justify why they should allow you to make the changes. So if indeed mistakes were discovered and Daniel Domelovo was allowed to make changes, then we want to assume that he went through all these processes. If he didn't, then see the people who have failed us, it would include SNIT as well. And all this is assumptions.
Charlie.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's do the newspapers. Ben, you're keeping me at Auditor General.
No, you will be talking, delving extensively. You know, I've laid the foundation for you now. Now, when we start, it won't be too hard on the ears of people.
You will leave the show today as a Ghanaian and return as a Nigerian.
You know, I have some roots from... I didn't say that I'm Ghanaian.
You come and say roots. We'll say you're not Ghanaian.
I am Ghanaian.
Okay, well, we won't say you're not Ghanaian. We'll say you're Nigerian.
Let's check out the Ghanaian Times.
On the front page, nationwide, COVID-19 vaccination takes off, hotspots targeted, and the first phase exercise. The picture of the Asantehene Otumfo said to the second, having his first jab of the COVID-19 vaccine.
So I've been saying,
I've seen...
And carry. I said carry once. Someone went after me. Kakari. Or say two. Or say two. Yeah.
I've seen some leading, officials, state persons receive the jab, but nobody has done it for me in a more majestic way than Otumfo. He was smiling through it yesterday.
White,
oh my God! And the nurse, see, I would like the senior nurse who did it for Otumfo to give me the injection. It was so quick.
It was a romantic vaccination, romantic on very way level. Like it was.
It was very quick. And I saw Lady Julia and the nurse was trying to make her laugh. I want to go to Menchia together.
You meet one of the booga ones. You see what they
No, I'll go to Menchia. Okay, so that story is in the paper. MPP NDC commits to peace after Supreme Court ruling on election petition. Mahama urges Ghanaians to patronize COVID-19 vaccination. Now, the story that I tried to give you a little bit is on page 3. The pastor who is in court for swindling 3 victims of 8,700 Ghana cedis after he took 4,450 Ghana cedis from a senior high school leaver, promising him of enlisting, it's a she, into the Ghana Police Service. He's taken some more monies, and so there are some fresh charges. 3 more people coming forward. There is So this all happened last year. The accused introduced himself to a fruit vendor in Georgia as a police officer and told her that he could help any of her family members to be enlisted in the Ghana Police Service. The fruit vendor subsequently informed 3 relatives about the offer by the accused, and so they paid 8,700 Ghana cedis with the assurance that he would assist their children to get enlistment into the police service. And then, November last year, the accused asked his victims to send their children to a house in Ho and wait for their admission to the police training school. Okay. According to prosecution, well, let me go back a bit. The children went back to Georgia to cast their votes in the general election. And then the prosecution says that the 39-year-old pastor was first arraigned on February 15. I guess, after nothing was happening, they got a bit suspicious and so reported, and then he was arrested. And then the story goes on and on and on and on and on. His name is Joshua Asante. He is the man accused and charged for swindling some victims of 8,700 Ghana cedis. He promised to enlist them in the Ghana Police Service. And then there's another story here on page 3. Man 75 dies in chieftaincy clash at Gomwa. No. Police chase 4 for robbing mobile banking van. The police have mounted a search for 4 suspected armed robbers who robbed a mobile banking van at Barchona in Accra on Monday. This happened just on Monday. The robbers were reported to have disarmed police personnel escorting the van, took away his AK-47 rifle and bolted with an unspecified amount of money from the van, which was daily sales of traders from markets and shops. This is the police speaking and talking about the issue happening at about 3:30 p.m. On Monday. So more of it on page 3. This is very disturbing. In the center spread, well, the COVID-19 exercise, those who took the jab, including former President Mahama and his wife, Mrs. Lordina Mahama, and others. Some of the men are completely taking their shirts off. I thought you were just supposed to fold the sleeve so that they can give you the jab. But some of them are just ripping their shirts.
And yesterday, my friend Giovanni was it Giovanni or was it Stephen Anti? Well, he was mentioning that, look, as you go and take the jab, be careful. Watch what you're wearing underneath. You don't expose certain things unwittingly. Be careful. You might be exposed.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's check out some of the stories from the Daily Graphic this morning. 3,321 vaccinate first day. That was yesterday. Prominent personalities like Mr. Henry Quartey, Honorable Henry Quartey, if you like, Member of Parliament for this constituency, actually, Ayawaso Central, and Minister Designate for the Greater Accra Region, Chief of Staff, Mrs. Akosia Frema Osei of Pare. We also had Nanotu Esrebo, the second chairman of the Council of State. Quickly with this international bit, kidnapped Nigerian schoolgirls released. And this Zamfara area is becoming notorious in a way for these kidnappings, 317 of them. I just want to take a quick look at this editorial. You know how sometimes journalists are, journalists, they're solid, so to speak. This journalist, Vance Azu, you would know him, over 30 years in the field, and he is talking about how Ikwati and George Weah failed him. It's something you should read, and you know what he says? He says basically he wanted to interview these 2 people, and according to Vance Azu, they all wanted
money.
We don't grant interviews like that. He in 2005, after Ike had lost his title and his belt and was trying to, get himself back into the fray, he wanted to have an interview with him, boost him a bit. Charlie, the question was, and same with George Weah then. In fact, George Weah, according to what he says, was asking him, look, what pertains in Europe and if you want an interview, so you must. And the guy was like, so yeah.
Is it a through relationship?
Anyway, double level attains compulsory retirement.
It's giving you content now.
Page 16. Election petition, what are the arguments? That's on page 16 as well. IDEG is saying don't stifle media freedom on page 19. The middle spread, media managers, editors vaccinate against COVID-19. The back page, I'm sure you've seen this, Mama V. Horrifying. The photo of that bridge and the truck, tipper truck, collapsing. Bridge over river, how do you pronounce this? Mameso or Mamieso? Collapses.
Please, the last time I checked, I'm from Angolagong.
So Western region. Relax. Hold on. Hold on. So before I am told.
Go for it, though.
Okay. So maybe I'll check out that story when we're done. Find out.
If it was Strongby or Lashigby, then I'll be able to pronounce. Yeah. Or Donogbo.
All right.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Let's do the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Front page, NPP and NDC commit to peace after meeting with national security. Mahama Ladina take COVID vaccine. They've got full details of why the minority MPs rejected 8 ministers. Well, that issue is becoming, a bit controversial, isn't it? Because, the chairman of the committee, the appointment committee, says that they have no power to reject any nominee. And
so is it a rubber stamp committee then?
Oh, it's not. They recommend, actually. They make recommendations.
So they're kind of like the Council of State.
And then the plenary would...
they're kind of like the Council of State.
Oh, well, in the end, it will get to the plenary and then they will take the decision. But it's always good. We've always said that it's good to get the entire committee approving a nominee, But yeah, they can have their say. The plenary will have its way, I guess.
I guess this time it's going to be interesting because the plenary then, you're looking at practically even numbers. So we'll see. The final newspaper, Zipline begins world's first ever drone delivery of COVID-19 vaccines in Ghana. MPP NDC commit to peace after Supreme Court verdict. And CBOD demands clamp down on illegal fuel trade. You'd be thinking, Senor Hosi, in that regard. It also talks about the massive turnout for yesterday's vaccination. And Rebecca Foundation donates hospital equipment to Kaneshi Polyclinic. Speaking of that foundation, I was very happy in recent times. You saw the story of Yawa, the woman who, diabetic and all of that. Story by our very own Beryl Richter. And they came to her aid. And, it's so touching. Anyway, that's just by the by. Done with the graphic.
Well, I am also. It's just the Ghanaian publisher that has the story of the Accra minister designate declaring war on land gas, promises to end multiple sale of lands in Accra as he appeared before the vetting committee. There was an issue of sirens, and he said that he would do something about it. I like the question from the chairman. The chairman of the committee said, you were Deputy Interior Minister. What did you do about it? That police was under the ministry, direct. And now that you're going to be Greater Accra Minister. Then he said,
sometimes they
I
tell
was
you
assisting the substantive minister.
and there were certain decisions I could not take. But I think sometimes we should ask them, what did you advise? What is on record? In terms of, do they minute their meetings and interactions and all of that? Someone should be able to say, look, I gave this counsel, and even it's in the minutes of maybe a meeting on this day at this time and something. At least so we know that, okay, you were thinking something, but maybe.
But before
it just
he comes to us, one of the things he was cautioning was members of parliament. We want him to start with them, begin with them before you come to the ordinary people, the taxis that would either be blowing their horn or, whatever. Deal with your own people first, and then we know you can come to us, the ordinary ones.
Okay, so I'll wrap up with two headlines from two different papers. Daily Guide, Nana pins Mahama on lean data, where the Daily Guide has statistically proven what to be lean data. So that's with the Daily Guide. But the Republic Press in recent times has been coming up with interesting... Do you remember that headline about...
Say Republic Press like 3 times.
Republic Press, Republic Press, Republic Press.
Faster.
Republic Press, Republic Press, Republic Press.
Okay.
How about you do it? I'm throwing it back to you.
Oh, no. I asked you the question. You can. We got 1 minute.
So you remember the headline with Hawa Kum saying that she drowned at sea?
Yeah.
Guess what today is? Fisheries job still fishy. as Minority Caucus frustrates. As Minority Caucus, these people, they are giving you headlines you would see in some UK papers. Like they can jab with subtle.
I like it.
Anyway, so that's just by the by. Fisheries jobs still fishy.
Oh my God! Let's spend the rest of the minutes. Should we do my jawline?
Yes, let's do.
You wanted to do the bridge.
I think it's one that anyway. So
who
a steel bridge
there?
that links Mameso to other communities in the Wassa Menfi East municipality in the Western region has collapsed. And it talks about a long, heavy-duty truck reaching the middle of the bridge when it caved in, trapping the truck and pushing the bridge deep into the river. A team of engineers from the Ghana Highway Authority have visited the scene and lent support. So I'm wondering how old this bridge is, the MCE, the authorities in that area, what they've been doing up to this point, till the bridge actually collapses. This country, so many things happen here that are just needless.
Oh, it takes time, just like discovering whether or not Daniel Domalovo is Ghanaian or, the anomalies with his date. It takes a while. So we'll fish this one out too. Yeah, but go on to myjournalline.com. We've got plenty of headlines for you right there. Mr. Daniel Domalovo's story is right there as well. Stay with us on the AM Show as we discuss this matter in detail. And of course, is he going to show up? Yesterday, I was listening to Kojo Asante of the CDD who says he bought him a box of chocolates for Val's, chocolate day. And so he's going to send it to him. And there are people urging him to show up in the office. Would he go or not? Is this the end of Mr. Daniel Domalovo's work as a public officer in Ghana? Is he Ghanaian? Is he Togolese? Well, all of that conversation coming up.
It's one of two things. Go to work, go to work, go to work, or yepa yenko.
What will they use to secure the door to his office this time around? All of that here on the show. But we have to bring you sports first.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM Sports with me, Oreko Wampofo. Well, today we do have a lot in store for you and we'll be also taking a look at that feature on the Ghana Premier League top scorer, Diawisi Taylor, much later on the show. But before we do that, let's look at Adriana Stars defender Farouk Adams, and as he is in police grips for allegedly hitting a police officer and then absconding the scene. Now, the details that are coming in claim that the player was en route from Sunyani to Doma when the accident did happen yesterday. My colleague Mubarak Haruna has the rest of the story.
The player who won the NASCO Man of the Match award in week 16 of the Ghana Premier League match between Adriana Stars and Inter Allies at Doma was driving from Sunyani back to Doma when the accident happened. According to sources, the player alleges he knocked down a suspected animal that crossed the car, upon which he stopped but found nothing. The source said he alleges he later parked the car at a nearby fuel station where he called the car owner about the accident and proceeded to the Wamfie Polyclinic to attend to an injury he sustained. He later went back to the accident scene with the car owner but again found nothing. He then left for Doma in a different vehicle while a mechanic moved the other car to Sunyani on the orders of the actual owner, the source said. Farouk Adams alleged it was his friend who later told him the accident had caused the death of one person. He then reported it to the Doma police station around 1:30 p.m. on Tuesday and was subsequently arrested by the Wamfie police. A police source said they had information of an accident victim only to find a lifeless body of Constable Mate by the road at the scene. The body has been deposited at the Presby Hospital at Doma while investigations continue.
The board of Heart to Folk has also promised to invest in the technical department of the team to improve their fortunes on the field. Now, Chairman Togbe Afede says they will set up a scouting department for the club.
We'll provide him with all the resources to be able to build the systems that he needs to succeed. resources to enable him to do all the analysis that needs to be done. We have plans to rebuild our scouting system. We will count on him to help us to build the appropriate system. Remember, our academy will have under 15s, under 17s, and under 20s. We need to scout for all of those people from across the country. We already had plans also to build satellite academies in other countries. Okay, so our network for pooling talent, for discovering special football talent is going to be very wide. And we expect Coach Boedu to be part of the development of that scouting network. So we'll give him all the conditions that, he needs to thrive, okay? And we will work with him to develop the systems and the structures that will bring success to both him and to us, so that again together we'll succeed. So that 5 years again from now, we can all look back and thank God for this day. Thank you all very much.
Interesting, isn't it? Welcome back on the AM show. It's a Wednesday morning, and you know what we bring you. Even as we commemorate Ghana Month, one African country best known for its local content is Morocco. The Moroccan ambassador to Ghana, Imami Wadil, has been sharing with Charles Aite how the consumption and export of locally manufactured goods can expand Ghana and Africa's economic potential. Here's an exclusive she granted to AM Business.
Since I arrived actually in July 2019, my first concern was to discover that we don't do much between our two countries in terms of economic cooperation and trade. So I have first started to inquire about what can we do to just strengthen our trade relations.
But even as you inquired about that, did you get to understand the reasons why trade ties are not that deepened?
Well, actually, it's just, I think, a lack of adventurous spirit from our people in Morocco and from the Ghanaian business community. Because actually, in fact, we have a lot in common. We have a lot of complementarities, and we have a lot of relations to build on. Our political relations are very rich, have been running since the Casablanca conference, 1961, with the late Kwame Nkrumah and our late King Mohammed VI and Mohammed V, sorry. And we have been doing some kind of, I'm not saying that there is no business ties, but I think that there is not enough business ties. And that's my mission here, is to increase this kind of knowledge between Morocco and Ghana, and kind of partnership and cooperation. There are a lot of, not a lot of, but there are many companies, Moroccan companies, that are settled in Ghana, such as CIMAF, the cemetery plant in Tema, which has been here since 2016. And they are doing well. They are even contemplating the creation of a new plant in Ghana, a second one. And since I arrived, and even during the COVID-19 pandemic, many companies, many private and also public entities have shown interest in investing in Ghana. The last one is a big construction company in Morocco, dealing with affordable housing.
Okay.
That has taken a keen interest in investing in Ghana, and they are in a very much advanced stages in coming to Ghana very soon.
But how much are we looking at in terms of the investment capital?
I can't tell you the numbers because, you know, a lot of these companies are private ones.
That's great. When you presented your credentials to President Akufo-Addo, that was that was in 2019, I believe.
It was in September 2019.
In September 2019. Yes. You granted the media an interview. And in that interview, I want to quote sections of that which has a relation to your focus as ambassador. Yeah. You said that countries should also focus, Ghana, Morocco should focus on exchanges between two societies, especially at the human and intellectual level, and strengthen academic and scientific cooperation. How has this been ever since you took office?
Yes, actually the cultural exchange and educational one has been going on since 2001. With the reopening of our embassies here in Accra and in Morocco in the time of the ex-president Kufuor. At that time we were granting 35 scholarships for Ghanaian students a year. But since His Majesty King Mohammed VI visited Ghana in 2017, this number has been doubled. Now we are offering 70 scholarships a year. And in 2019, we have added 20 more for dedicated to vocational training. Even with the pandemic, this scholarship offer have been maintained.
Okay.
The only difference is that because of problems of, you know, border closures and everything, we have the Moroccan authorities have decided that since the Ghanaian students are going to anyway, even they reach into Morocco, they have to go through 1 year French language because to be able to follow their studies correctly.
Let's talk about the Continental Free Trade Agreement era, because we do know that this in its own self is somewhat of the dream of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, of which Morocco partnered closely way back in 1961. Of course, we do know in excess of $3.4 trillion is at stake now, but how is Morocco really tapping into this market so far? If you could help us with some figures, some numbers on the trade patterns and thereafter, ever since it took off on the 1st of January?
Well, Morocco has signed the agreement. It was one of the first countries to sign the agreements in 2018 in Kigali, and we are very keen on making this African dream a reality. We are, as I said, Moroccan companies are present in 40 countries in Africa now. Morocco is the first African investor in West Africa. And this is the second...
The first African investor in West Africa?
In West Africa, yes, according to the African Bank of Development. And we are also the second African investor in the continent as a whole, after South Africa. So that shows that Morocco is very much engaged into this South-South cooperation and African finding African solution to African problems.
How concerned are you about the fact that intra-African trade is less than 5%, even though we're coming up with the Continental Free Trade and Morocco is at its forefront of helping other African states?
Well, actually, the border problem is indeed a very huge problem for us. There are today some borders that are closed among African countries. I can speak here about the border between Morocco and Algeria, for example, which has been closed for years now. I'm sure that this highly impedes the concretization of this dream, but it's going very well. I think there is no problem on that side.
I want you to help us understand the culture of Morocco, because oftentimes we hear from students, we hear from investors, the fact that Morocco is somewhat a conservative society, at that. The things you can be doing in Ghana, you cannot do in Morocco. And the kind of legal frameworks there are often not the same here in Ghana, definitely. Okay. But help us understand, how much embracing is the Moroccan environment, society? How mosaic is it for investment and students?
Well, I don't know of anything that you can do in Ghana and you cannot do in Morocco. No, we are a Muslim country, indeed. We are 95% Muslims, but we have actually Moroccan people are a mosaic of people already. There are Berbers, the original people that populated Morocco before the Phoenicians and before everybody else. The Moroccan Jews, which were here, and there are, some of them are still living in Morocco as a community. We have the foreigners, who the French colonizers and the Spanish, who have built their churches, and some of them are still living in Morocco. So in Morocco you have churches, synagogues, and mosques alike. Okay. Of course, more mosques because of the majority of the people, but all of these places of worship are very much protected, very much accessible to everybody. The student community in Morocco, which are now 28,000 African students, they are studying freely. They have no problems, or they have the same problems as their Moroccan counterparts. The Moroccan, the foreigners, the African students living studying in Morocco receive more per diem than the Moroccan people who are on scholarships for the year. And the Moroccan tertiary education is free, unless you want to go to a private institution. That is, you have to pay.
On the World Tourism Ranking, we do know that Morocco is one of the top countries across Africa and even the world when it comes to tourism. And of course, here in Ghana, yes, we have the potential, but there are stark challenges involved. If you're looking at the value chain of tourism in the country, what do you think that, if done properly, Ghana could also be among the tops when it comes to tourism?
Marketing.
Marketing.
Well, I am doing some marketing for the Ghana tourism.
Okay.
Because I am.
So
whenever
you
I have,
don't market our stuff well.
Not you don't market yourself well, but you don't market yourself enough.
Okay.
Because, for example, for the Moroccan tourists, Moroccan tour operators don't know about the destination Ghana.
Oh.
It's not well advertised.
Oh.
And we have in Morocco, like in Ghana, the same upper class people who have the means, because I have to say that the hotels in Ghana are quite expensive. But as I said, we have this kind of people who are ready to buy a ticket and to go to high-end resorts. In Seychelles, they go to Seychelles, they go to Mauritius, and they go so far as, I don't know, New Zealand and things. In order to have that exotic feeling, you know that in Morocco there is no coconut trees. And you cannot bathe in the sea in December, like in Ghana. But these people don't know that they can fly with Royal Air Maroc, a direct flight to Accra in 4 hours, and have all this available. And they have to travel. I mean that there is not. This is what I call the people-to-people knowledge. This is what I want to achieve. Women empowerment is something that is so natural that I don't think it as a. I think of it as a program, because it's just the natural thing to do. Okay. Especially in our African countries, and Morocco is also a Muslim African countries, that the rights of women has always been at the one of the subjects to deal with. I have very good relations with some of the Ghanaian ladies that are chairing foundations and NGOs for defending women's rights. we have had a good cooperation. My predecessor has had a very good cooperation with the foundation of the Second Lady, Madame Samira Baumia. She even visited Morocco on that during his term to enhance cooperation with Moroccan NGOs and foundations there. So I think we will have to pursue this, but with not a specific item on the agenda, but as the natural thing to do and the right thing to do.
Ambassador, we're grateful that you joined us. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
Thanks for staying with us here on the AM show. Now, Mr. Daniel Domelevo was forced to go on leave and he is expected to return to work today. But that may not be. Why? Because of correspondence between himself and the board of the audit service. Apparently, there are some disparities in his date of birth and also his nationality. It turns out from the documents, he put his date of birth whilst filling some documents with the Social Security and National Insurance Trust. He put the date of birth as 1st June 1960, which was subsequently sometime in 1993 changed to 1961. And so per the documentation, according to the Audit Service Board, he was supposed to have retired from public service back last year in June. So this discovery of the date of birth and the nationality, according to the Audit Service Board, he is expected or he is supposed to be retiring. And so they forwarded, according to the board, they forwarded those discoveries to the presidency. As you all know, the president is the appointing authority here. And that's the situation with Mr. Daniel Domelevo. Let's have a conversation on the back of that as you continue to appreciate the issues by way of what we're showing to you on television. You can read those correspondence. We've put them in bullet forms so that it will be easy to read. You can get a better understanding of where we've come from. Just when Mr. Daniel Domelevo was expected to resume work, which is today, this issue came up yesterday. The Audit Service board chairperson has been justifying this decision. Vital Azim is an anti-graft campaigner, former executive director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative. First, when Mr. Daniel Domelevo was forced to go on that accumulated leave, Vital Azim had said that it was a ploy to push him out. Let's get his thoughts on this latest development. Mr. Azim, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the AM show on Joy News.
You're welcome.
Great. I'm sure that you've read the correspondence between the Audit Service Board and Mr. Daniel Domelevo on the discoveries that they've made in terms of his date of birth being 1960 and not 1961, allegedly, and also the fact that it turns out that he's Togolese and not Ghanaian. Therefore, he's expected to have retired last year, and they are advising the president accordingly. What do you make of this latest development, first of all?
Well, I would think that it's a continuation of the ploy to get him out, because this man has been working all this time, and all of a sudden, he's supposed to report for work today, and they see that they find out these things. But some of these things, they are documented. So it should be easy to verify them and to prove that what they are saying is true or that what they are saying is not true. When you even look at the fact, how could he have felt that the Togolese is his tribe? And the authorities accepted that he said Togolese, his tribe was Togolese. That looks a bit funny. But in any case, these are documented, and it should be possible to verify them.
Are you expecting that he will show up to work today?
Oh, yes, I think that he should show up. I'm expecting that he will show up because these are yet correspondents. They haven't told him not to show up at work. They are advising the president to do something about it. But the president has not written to him. They haven't even investigated the matter. So if I were Domolu, I will go to work.
The first letter, according to what is out, was inviting him to a meeting to discuss what they had discovered, but he didn't show up. He reminded them that they were not the appointing authority. It was following that they went ahead to put out in detail what they had discovered and why they would advise the president accordingly to ask him to proceed on leave because he was supposed to have retired last year. So didn't they give him a fair opportunity to defend himself at that meeting?
Why would it be fair if he's being called by a wrong person to appear before and defend himself? Doesn't agree that they are right people to invite him to that meeting. They are not his appointed authority. And so it's not an issue of giving him a fair opportunity to defend himself. He doesn't see them as the appropriate authority for him to defend himself.
For persons such as yourself who appreciate the work of Daniel Domolovo, the reason you want him back in office, are you paying less attention to what has been discovered? If indeed there were discrepancies in age and he should have retired last year, then that is a huge issue, isn't it?
Well, yes, that will be a huge issue. That's why I said there should be documentation for them to look at and arrive at a decision. Because some of these documents, when you are completing, you have to sign a declaration saying that the information you are providing is true and all that. And there are legal implications. So if the information that they are putting out there is true, definitely you have to answer in a way.
You know, where are we? It sounds as though the audit service, because I'd said earlier that this discovery didn't come from SNITS. This is being shared by the audit service. Is that an issue? The fact that it's the audit service that's bringing this to bear, is that a big problem?
I don't think that's a big problem. If you decide, if you have an axe to grind, you look for sources of information. And so if they find that information and the audit service is willing to corroborate that information, I don't think that should be an issue. You just have to find out whether the issues are fact or not fact.
But if it turns out that this is indeed true, then who has failed? Does it mean we didn't do due diligence?
That's a bit difficult for me to say because when you are being employed, they ask you for your birthday, you fill a form showing your birthday and all that. And until an issue comes out, people actually do not go back to those documents to find out whether that information you put there was true or not. And so I wouldn't say that the audit service has failed. It is something that information you have provided, and you have a responsibility to ensure that the information is true. So if there's a problem, both sides will probably have to explain.
Well, if we're going with the 1961 date that Mr. Daniel Domolovo stands by strongly, he's supposed to retire in 3 months. Why do you think the audit service couldn't, the board couldn't wait for this 3 months? 3 months was just around the corner.
Yeah, that's where you talk about having an axe to grind, wanting to push him out by all means. They don't want him to come back because they don't know what he'll come back and do with regards to some of the things that he was pursuing. So that is the problem. You want him out so that it doesn't continue with the anti-corruption agenda, the accountability agenda that he was pursuing, especially as it affects certain people in government. And so I believe that's the only reason. Otherwise, why would you want to push him out when he just has 3 months to go? Especially when some of this information, you're not even sure that the information is true.
Is it time for anti-graft campaigners such as yourself to advise Mr. Daniel Domalovo, to just simply retire and be free from all these?
Well, it will be like we are just giving up. Although I think that maybe personally, if you ask for my personal, now just look at your records. If you cannot justify them, maybe you just forget about it. But if he has the records that show that, he has done the right thing, I think as a principle, he should wait until the time comes or until an appropriate authority asks him to go.
What can he realistically do in 3 months? What new discoveries can Daniel Domalovo bring out as Auditor General in 3 months?
So there were certain issues that he was already pursuing. The senior minister case, for example, I don't know whether he can go back for it. There are other issues that he was pursuing. So he can at least bring those to conclusion.
Okay, so what are your expectations, finally, before we end this conversation? The president, we haven't heard from the presidency yet on this matter, whether or not there is an investigation, what the president makes of this correspondent from the audit board. We haven't heard anything yet. Are you expecting that we will hear something from the presidency at least?
I think we should hear something from the president. But until that comes, I won't be surprised if they deny him access to his office.
But if they do deny him access to his office, what would be his options?
I don't have an answer. I don't know whether at this stage he can talk about going to court. I don't know his options. That I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I cannot tell.
Yeah, sure. Well, Mr. Vitus Azim, it's just coming up to 8 a.m. We have our reporter on the ground, so we'll see whether or not Mr. Daniel Domalovo shows up and whether he will have access to his office or not. But for now, thank you very much for speaking to us.
You're welcome.
Okay. Vitus Azim is an anti-graft campaigner and former executive director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative. We've just been talking about the matter of Daniel Domalovo, the Auditor General, who, according to the Audit Service Board, was expected to have retired last year because, according to some discoveries that they've made with his SNIT documentations, his date of birth as given before was 1960 and not 1961. It's on the back of that and the fact that they also discovered that he is apparently Togolese and not Ghanaian. The reason why he should proceed on retirement. He had been on accumulated leave for quite some time and is expected to resume today. We will be telling you what is happening on the ground when we go back. But we've got a news desk report that we want to share with you on the back of this.
Daniel Domalovo with his infamous quote during an interview following his decision to surcharge former senior minister Yao Safo-Mafo for allegedly breaching the Public Procurement Act that resulted in their payment of $1 million to a private UK firm, Kroll and Associates. Mr. Safo-Mafo then sued the Auditor General and 4 other officials of the Finance Ministry to clear their names. His was one of many state entities Mr. Domalovo was investigating, but on June 29, 2020, President Akufo-Addo directed him to proceed on his accumulated annual leave of 123 working days. The presidency had relied on sections 20 and 32 of the labor law and also a precedent set by former President Atta Mills when he asked the then Auditor General Edward Dua Ajiman to proceed on leave. But the move was criticized by some civil society organizations which read meanings into the decision.
The president has no power to exercise any control, disciplinary, whatever, financial, administrative, managerial, none.
Days after this directive, Mr. Domelovo wrote back to the presidency urging President Akufo-Addo to reconsider the directive as it was unconstitutional. Daniel Domelovo said he had observed that his work was embarrassing the government. Following this letter, the presidency extended his leave by an additional 44 days. Government maintained the decision of the president was well grounded in law.
A sitting president has exercised the powers under the Labour Act, reference to somebody in the audit service in this manner. I do not recall civil society groups coming together to do a press conference.
Several pressure groups, political parties, and civil society organizations, including Occupy Ghana, CDD, the NDC, and anti-corruption campaigners, including Vitus Azim, spoke against the directive and urged the president to recall the Auditor General from his leave.
First, we believe the decision of the president is not proper and needs to be reconsidered. The action gravely weakens the president's fight against corruption.
US-based Ghanaian lawyer Professor Kweku Asari took the campaign a notch higher when he sued the Attorney General and two others over this directive, arguing it was illegal and inconsistent with the letter and spirit of Article 1877 of the 1992 Constitution. Within the first month of proceeding on leave, the locks on Mr. Domelovo's office were changed on the instructions of the Audit Service Board, chaired by Professor Duajiman.
Yeah, but the key cannot even enter. How do you see that it was flat like this, and they've changed it to this one?
Professor Duajiman defended this action, saying the move was to secure the office.
There is a problem about the office, the locks. The board has every right to make sure that the place is secure.
After 167 days on leave, Daniel Domelovo is expected to return tomorrow, March 3, 2021, to continue his work. What remains to be seen is what will become of the legal action taken in his defense following the president's directive.
All right, now let's go to the Mr. Daniel Domelovo's office and check whether or not he's reporting today. Manuel Cranting is my colleague. Manuel, first of all, where are you? And is there any sign that Mr. Domelovo is either in the office or he's showing up today? Hello, Manuel.
Essentially, where you have the audit ministries, essentially where you have the Auditor General's office. You ordinarily would have him reporting to work sometime at 8 a.m. Well, it's just a few minutes to that time, and I've just checked from the reception at the audit, in fact, in that particular office, and I've been told that he's not arrived. I've checked the car park also and spoken to the security man who directed me to where he usually parks. His vehicle is also not there. And so as of this point, I can confirm to you that at the Auditor General's department, where Daniel Domelovo, if indeed he is to report to work, is expected to be, he's currently not here.
Today, I did listen to Kojo Asante of the CDD, who had said that he was going to meet him up at work and give him a box of chocolate. I guess my question is, have you spotted familiar faces or known people who are there to receive him?
Well, one thing is certain. I see a number of media personnel around here who are also trying to sniff around for the presence of Mr. Domelovo. As for other people, for instance, the Kojo Asante that you just referred to, I have not seen him just yet. I've seen the administrator at the service just walk into the office. I tried to get a word, but he declined. Essentially, what we're having is normal work activities going on as it has been in the past 165 days and over in the absence of Mr. Domelovo. And so, barring any last-minute changes, giving the directive from the board of the service, perhaps we're not going to see Mr. Domelovo. But I mean, it's early days yet, and his reporting time is even not yet up. So we're expecting to get details on whether or not he will arrive here, Mama V.
All right, Manuel, we'll let you be for now. Just keep hanging around and let us know if there's any new development on Daniel Domelevo. So we've got Manuel Cranting, who is standing by at the audit service, and he will be reporting to us on whether or not Mr. Daniel Domelevo shows up to work this morning. That's the first leg of our conversation on AM Talk on the Auditor General. But let's move on and talk about the Supreme Court. The verdict is tomorrow. The Supreme Court will put to rest this matter of the challenge put up against the validity of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as President of the Republic. Let's have a conversation on how this will further deepen our democracy, whichever way the decision goes. Mr. Paul Kufuor is a Senior Programs Manager with the CDD. He joins us for a conversation. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Mr. Kufuor.
Much, pleasure talking to you. Good morning to all the people watching us this morning.
Great. So various organizations, before John Dramani Mahama took this matter to court, they were urging him to go to court. That's where we resolve issues over the validity of an election, a presidential election. Finally, he went to court. We've seen this matter travel for weeks, and finally there's a verdict tomorrow. Let me ask about the lessons that you think we've learned with regards further deepening our democracy with this court challenge.
Thank you very much, Mama V. First of all, I want to congratulate the parties, especially the NDC, for responding to the public call and really proceeding to the court to get their grievances redressed. First of all, the lessons are in many folds. If you look at the court, you will notice that from the 2013 election petition, this time the trial process or the adjudication process, it's quite hasty, but it still doesn't compromise from our observations of the court proceedings. It doesn't seem to compromise justice in any way. So I think it's quite good so that as a nation, we don't really get ourselves bogged with a very long period of trials, which also has implications on the economy in terms of productivity and others. So I think the introduction of the reform, the new CI, has really enhanced the speedy trial of the case. That's one aspect of it. Then if you look at the issue about the NDC trying to request for interlocutories, trying to subpoena the EC chair, trying to open its case. One lesson that you can draw or deduce from the philosophy of the court is that it appears the court is very conservative, and it always like to stick to most of its tried-tested positions on the law, so that they don't open any Pandora box or open the floodgates for the lower courts to find themselves in a position where it can lead to an abuse based on a decision that the Supreme Court has made. So these are some of the lessons that I've picked on the part of the courts. Also, one important thing is about the issue of contempt, where there have been calls that it will help the public good if matters regarding to contempt are codified, so that the public will know how the adjudication process will go. And the citizens will also be quite cautious in terms of what contempt entails and what are the processes as laid out by law. This will enhance transparency and also avoid any possibility of abuse. So this is a part of the courts, but I have also some observations on the part of citizens. Okay. You will see that citizens are also gradually identifying themselves strongly with the court processes. The court has opened itself to the public, and it enhances the transparency. And certainly, if the court performs its works well, it will improve on public trust and confidence in the court. So I think it's a learning opportunity for citizens to understand the court process. Every election, every dispute session, the 2013, we see some cliches, like you and I were not there and all that. But this time around, we are here, interlocutories, subpoena. So it's a learning process for citizens. But most importantly, the election management bodies, that's the EC. One observation or lesson that I think going forward is how to address post-election administrative complaints is equally important. So there may be basic, some mathematical issues, errors, additional issues, computational issues that political parties will want the EC to consider, either before the declaration of the elections or post-declaration. So is there a way that we can regulate that regime so that it can enhance the integrity of our elections? I'm not saying that there is any problem at this stage with it, but I think these observations and lessons that channels of addressing grievances are open up.
Okay.
The IPAC is
so I was just going to say on the back of that we haven't had the court give any directives on that. Maybe when we see the consequential orders of the court tomorrow, we will get to see what kind of direction that they're also given going forward. But as it stands now, there hasn't been anything. But I also wanted to ask about, and I'll come back to the citizens, the issue that you raised. But in terms of timing, this has been pretty short. And it's almost like, oh, suddenly we're here. And we wanted a speedy adjudication, and we got one, didn't we?
I think the Supreme Court drew, and not even the Supreme Court, as a country, we drew lessons from the 2013 election petition, and we felt that the 8 months period wasn't quite helpful to the economy and society as well, and even to justice delivery. So lessons drawn on that indicated that we should be able to do something about the length of the trial. And that, I think, informed the 3 months duration that was set for this particular trial. But I think what is good about this is that we have all had the opportunity to observe the trial process. The Supreme Court, in its various unanimous rulings, has given basis for its judgment, has made the trial process quite transparent. There has been opportunities for filing of reviews and all that. So as much as it is within the parameters of the law, I think that nothing much has been compromised.
The issue with citizens also learning. Are we indeed learning? Do we actually understand the processes of the court? Because in recent days, we've seen that the Judicial Service has been worried. Reason it actually asked its lawyers to write generally to the media, even though they were targeting some particular media houses on comments by citizens. So in terms of contempt or scandalizing the court or commentary, have we done better in this particular petition? And we're just doing a quick comparison between this petition and the very first one.
Yes, I think if you compare this petition with 2013, you see some known figures virtually getting themselves as victims of contempt, compared to this current petition, where we've not had that number of high-profile cases appearing before the courts. But I think most substantially, the point that I was trying to make was, though it's anecdotal, it's not scientific, but you see that people have been discussing the course issues. Not all the discussions have been quite libelous or seems to criminalize the court. But I think you agree with me that in a much larger context, our society is quite polarized. There are certain actors within the society that they deliberately pursue this kind of agenda just to really make the courts look bad. I think if you look at all the various institutions and actors in the country, when CSOs sometimes have had their own share, the media sometimes get its own share. But personally, I think that the court is an institution that is our last hope. And though I really don't buy strongly into the letter that was issued, but I think we must all do well to really protect the sanctity and the respect of the court.
But what do you make of the mode, how they chose to communicate this time around, not mentioning people and bringing them before the court, but writing a general letter to media houses?
I think I share with those who have already expressed earlier positions on that case, that I think this could have been handled in other ways by the judicial service itself or the judicial secretary, writing something brief to the public, just to let them create awareness that there is still the possibility of crossing a red line. But the tenor, the content, and the letter itself appeared to be something that seems to really silence the media in one way or the other. So personally, I don't think that approach appears to be the best.
Okay, but you've been observing, Mr. Osei-Kuffour, how have we performed? And when I say we, I'm talking about the media.
For the few media houses, there's proliferation of media houses in the country. We have a number of them, and sometimes it's difficult to really monitor unless you put a project on to monitor and track all media houses, really document issues of hate speech and all that. But for the few that I have really monitored, especially Joy, City, and some of the English-speaking ones, I think I've not had cause to really complain that I have to do most of maybe the prints that sometimes you read a few things online and you think that it's quite strong or it's quite hard. But compared to 2013, I think the media has performed better this time around. The lessons have been learned.
Well, the political parties involved in this matter, even though they're not the ones directly in court, but they've committed to accepting the results that will be delivered tomorrow. And does this help their following, particularly the petitioner? I mean, he could win or lose this matter. Do you think the followers are prepared enough for this verdict?
Yeah, I think it was a good, it was very good, and it's quite laudable for leadership of the various political parties to have met and really committed to respecting and working along the ruling, no matter how it goes. I think there is always a saying that leadership is cause and every other thing is effect. So basically, I think it's quite laudable and it sends a lot of good message out to the public, especially the political parties and their followers. You remember most of these atrocities and street protests started when leadership really decided not to accept the outcome of the declaration given by the EC, and people went to the street. And so it appears political parties really have a lot to do in terms of leadership, in terms of directing the action, the inaction, and the behaviors of their followers. So it's quite laudable. It tends to, and also the proceedings have been shown lack. And a lot of citizens, the public, followed the court trial, the engagements between the courts. There have been arguments for, there have been arguments against in most of the cases, in most of the issues that came before the court. And citizens have also formed their own opinions and judgments on how the case is likely to come out, or the outcome of the case. So we have all been part of the process. Nobody has been kept in the dark. So I think, depending on the Supreme Court is likely to assist the public to really come into terms and acceptance of the outcome of this ruling, considering how it has given basis, the foundations and justification for the various rulings that it has really churned out in the course of the trial. I think that the Supreme Court is in a better position, and they have given an indication that they will assist the public to come into terms with the outcome of the ruling.
All right, Well, Mr. Osei-Kuffour, in wrapping up this conversation, where would you be? Judgment is tomorrow. I guess everybody will be watching. And where would you be monitoring tomorrow's judgment?
Certainly, I'll be in the office. It's going to be another monumental day for Ghana as a country. Some countries in Malawi, the Supreme Court overturned its elections. We've had it in Kenya before. Ghana, first attempt, basically, we maintain the status quo. So it's either going to be a second round or we uphold the declaration by the EC. We are all quite in expectant mood, and tomorrow we'll be in the office, certainly, and we will look forward to the outcome of the ruling, and we all will accept and then move with it and make sure that Ghana really continue to take its position in the global society as the backbone of democracy in Africa.
Well, I would love to speak to you again tomorrow when we're counting down and after judgment, because I'd love you to answer the question of would we see a lot more election petitions in the future? And that would only be after judgment has been delivered. We'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Mama V. I look forward to that.
All right. Mr. Paul Osei-Kuffour is Senior Programs Manager with the CDD Ghana. And on this issue of the election petition 2020. What are you expecting? Okay, that's not the question. Where would you be following the matter at the Supreme Court? I can't ask you what you're expecting. No, it's only the Supreme Court that can come up with a judgment tomorrow. So we will have a beautiful conversation tomorrow. We'll be looking forward to our countdown will start from 8 a.m. here on the AM show. We'll have conversations looking back at where this whole case started from. And then, of course, we will go live to the Supreme Court, hear the judgment, and return and have some more conversations on the back of that. So look forward to our election petition update tomorrow, the verdict here on the AM show. We've got a sustainable renewable energy conversation that we'll be having with ASAP shortly. Stay with us. We're also keeping an eye at the audit service. Will Mr. Daniel Domelevo show up to work today or not? Stay with us.
And as this marks Ghana Month, we're going to be bringing you more and more of those this morning. Our focus on the central region. There's so much, just watching these, there's so much that even we do not know within our country. How about we explore Ghana this month, but of course, taking stock of COVID-19 protocols. Welcome back on the AM show. We talk energy matters now. It's something that concerns you, it concerns me, it concerns all of us. The main power supply challenges SMEs face in their operations relate to instability and high end-user tariffs. The unreliability of conventional power from the grid results from power outages and fluctuations, which can lead to machine failure, your precious gadgets, and have adverse impact on SMEs and their productivity. So the main objective of this project is to contribute towards enhancing affordable renewable energy through interventions that will explore opportunities for renewable energy adoption by SMEs. So we're going to give you some energy conservation tips on the show today. We'll bring you some infographics on that. But joining us for the conversation, Policy Lead Climate Change and Energy Transition. I'm talking about Charles Ofori. He joins us from ASAP, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, and also Silvana Zuana, who is a policy analyst with ASAP. Lady, gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Vinod.
Thank you for joining the conversation. So let's start from here. We're talking energy and how to conserve it. And of course, we're going to discuss it not just from the standpoint of SMEs. How about the person who doesn't own an SME or isn't in there? Surely. Individual levels as well. But what is renewable energy in the first place? Charles, I'll start with you.
Okay, basically, renewable energy is just
if you could
as the
speak
name
up a bit.
As the name goes, energy, the form of energy that is renewable. So, energy that we can actually trap from some of the natural occurring things in life. So, the sunlight, the wind, we have the geothermal from even water, and these things come and then they are mostly renewed. They don't get depleted. So as we trap the energy from it and use it to power gadgets, power equipment, and we continue to generate electrical power from them. Because of the fact that they do not deplete, we tend to call them as renewable energy.
Okay, so interesting dynamics there when it comes to renewable energy. But what would you say sparked, this drive? Maybe I'll throw that to you, Silvana. This entire project that ASEP is embarking on. What triggered it?
Okay, so as you rightly said at the beginning, we have past sector challenges in Ghana that has to do with reliability and then the cost. But we have found renewable energy to be cheaper in the long run. And so that is why we are advocating for this. So this project is actually in partnership with GIZ. And so we are trying to help SMEs adopt renewable energy for their operations.
Right, and very interesting because we have loads of those in our country, the SMEs and their contributions. If we're all able to save power, the dynamics would be different. But let me come back to you, Charles. So renewable energy, SMEs, and all of that. And ASEP has decided to embark on this drive. Do we have any statistics, any information, for example, about how renewable energy or how sustainability conscious we are in this country, even as far as SMEs are concerned? Do we have any statistics based on which you felt, let's embark on this drive?
Okay, so generally there are no official statistics that cover such issues. But what we see generally is that the level of renewable energy, and here I'm talking about small-scale hydro and then solar and other wind renewable energy generation sources or technologies. The value of those, the amount of those technologies in our mix, that is the national electricity mix, is quite low. I mean, we have about 35–36% hydro and over 60% thermal, but we have less than 1% renewable energy within our energy mix. So wow. if you look at the statistics on that general energy mix situation, then it's quite low. But we also look at the fact that whilst we wait for government to increase the level of renewable energy within its energy mix, what can SMEs also do in their own small way in contributing to these effects of climate change, and also importantly making a business case for them to see whether some of the challenges that we face when it comes to affordability and reliability of power supply, what role will renewable energy play in such an instance? So we set out to identify the benefits that renewable energy will bring to an SME, and then provide an avenue for SMEs to adopt these energy sources. And when we say adopt, you don't necessarily mean a full-scale transitioning, but some level of incremental transitioning where you have some gadgets within your systems being powered by renewable energy sources and other equipment being powered by conventional sources. And I think that is the way to go.
Right. So we'll look at some of those mixes so that, yes, you could have the conventional sources, you could have your backup sources like solar and the rest. But why is it so important to be energy efficient in the first place? Why energy efficiency? Because, look, the Ghanaian example might be one that lends credence to the conversation we're having. We've experienced times when we had extended power outages. Even now, we're going through some of it with some explanation. But in other parts of the world, maybe someone might be thinking, why do I even need to be energy efficient? Charles, what would you say to such a person?
I believe that if we are energy efficient, all of us contribute towards the goal of ensuring a sustainable environment. And beyond the reduction in cost. I mean, someone may also say that saving a few kilowatt hours of electricity will not really give me a significant cost saving. But if each person or each household or each SME is able to save a kilowatt hour of energy, even per year, and we multiply, the multiplier effect is huge. It's going to really significantly reduce the amount of CO2 emissions that is really being emitted into the atmosphere, and also help sustain our environment. And this is the environment we have, and we need to preserve it.
Okay, so basically, by being energy efficient, we also sustain our planet.
Surely.
Because whatever we do here has consequences, not just for us, but for the entirety of the planet. Let me come to you. So when it comes to all of this bit about energy efficiency, the question is, how do I know whether in my business, in my home, I am being energy efficient? How do I know? I guess for some people it's just, oh, this is what we've always done. We leave the TV on, we do this, or we turn it off. But how do I know?
Okay, so energy efficiency, it has to do with a behavioral attitude as well.
Okay.
And mostly that aspect, we would term it as being energy conservation. So based on your behavior, how you treat your appliances, whether you leave them on, whether you turn them off, all of those are indicators of whether you are being efficient or not. So for instance, you live in the room, it's empty, you don't turn off the AC, you don't turn off the lights. All these amount to cost. And so if you are being energy efficient, you will turn them off and then you save some money.
Okay, so in other words, there are energy efficient practices, and there are energy deficient practices, if I may. I'm just coining my own words, but it means some of us are practicing energy efficiency, others are practicing maybe energy deficiency. But is it just limited to maybe turning off or turning on my gadgets? For me, I barely watch TV. When I watch TV, it's practically because of my work. But usually these gadgets are off. When I turn them on, and when I'm done watching maybe the president addressing the nation or something, I turn everything off. The switches themselves go off. So when I leave home, you would practically have just the fridge or a few things. At the main, practically everything is off. Is that energy efficiency?
Yeah. That is energy efficiency. But beyond that, we also have to consider the type of appliance you'd use.
Okay.
So these are the practices, but we also have to consider the equipment you would use or the appliances. So you would rather use an LED light bulb or fluorescent light bulb, which is more efficient than an incandescent bulb. Okay. So you would also want to look out for appliances that have energy stars. So you want to buy a refrigerator. I mean, the higher the stars, the more efficient the equipment is.
Right.
So if you buy a refrigerator with 5 stars, it's more efficient than the one.
So you're at the very height, because I think there are 5 stars.
Yes.
Yeah, some even have more stars.
6, 7. I've seen some with more.
Yeah, now the technology is advancing, and a lot of energy efficient equipment are coming in. So you could have 6 even to 10 stars. Yeah.
And we'll be breaking it down, looking at core appliances, that the ones that consume very little, the ones that consume a lot, and what we could be doing to ourselves. But how do you answer the person who says, you know, I have the money, I can foot my bills, and what is this thing about energy efficiency? Because I can pay, I can afford it, I can afford to leave the ACs on 24/7. Now your money. What would you say to such a person?
Well, I mean, one of the first things we talked about when we came was the fact about environmental sustainability and how each person's contributions would ensure that we all, contribute our quota towards the goal of ensuring environmental sustainability. Secondly, also, you know that most of our electricity is supplied by our distribution companies, our utilities. For the southern sector, we have ECG. For the northern sector, we have NETCO.
NETCO, yeah.
Right. The more energy we consume, it leads to the more energy we demand, and that puts quite a lot of load on them in providing us with the energy demand. So,
but we've been told, just to interject, that we have excess power supply, right?
Yeah.
So we might as well use it, shouldn't we?
That is a conversation that may require a different time for us to discuss into detail this issue about excess power. But I'm talking about even the distributional capacity. We may have the generational capacity, but let's look at, let's say, the transformers and all of those equipment that will help us to distribute energy. I mean, if there's so much load on these transformer lines and all that, there will be so much pressure on the distribution company. So you see that sometimes doing so is not just about the fact that we don't have enough generational capacity. Sometimes if Dumso is caused as a result of certain distributional imbalances or energy transmission imbalances, then you would have to talk about the load or ensuring that the equipment and the technology available for the transmission and then the distribution side of the energy sector value chain is really enhanced to meet the demand that we want. So if, bottom line, if we conserve enough energy, I think that it will put quite some minimal load on the distribution and the transmission side of the value chain, and will help us in obtaining quite a more reliable supply of power.
Okay, so shortly on your screens as well, we'll bring you some lists of items that consume the most and consume the least. But I would have you tackle both ends. I'll start with the least. Okay. Which are the household items that usually don't consume so much power? And you can talk to us about the ones that are, the giants when it comes to electricity consumption. Let's start with you, Silvana.
Okay, so we have fans.
Fans. Okay.
Yeah, fans don't really consume much electricity.
Right.
And, even with the chargers for our phones, well, it doesn't consume much.
I forgot about that one.
It doesn't seem to consume much. But if you plug it in and you do not connect it to the phone, but it's turned on, it still consumes power, And so if cumulatively, so for a household, almost everybody does that. We have about 5 people doing that. I mean, look at the whole nation as, put it, like broaden the perspective to the whole nation, and everybody does that. I mean, little by little, we tend to waste so much
Little
power.
drops of wattage make...
Exactly.
And it puts a huge energy burden on the country.
Exactly, exactly.
So you can see on your screens, before Silvana goes on, you can see on your screens some of those. It's a bit of a breakdown of what you should expect when you're using, for example, at the very bottom, LED or CFL light bulbs. That is what you're looking at, 18 to 15 watts. That is between what? The kilowatt hours, 67 to 125 hours. So that is what you'd be looking at. But could you reiterate that bit you were saying there? I find it interesting because sometimes we leave, we've finished using something like the phone, you've charged it, but you just disconnect, but it's still in the dock.
Yeah, same applies to TVs. You just pick the remote and switch it off, but you don't turn the power off from the wall. So the TV is on standby mode. It still is consuming power.
Right.
Okay, so
does it still consume at the same rate of when, assuming it were on functioning, or it's at a lesser rate, but it's still consuming power?
Yes, it's still consuming power, even though it's at a lesser rate.
So if you didn't know it, now you do. When you leave that, phone's charger in the dock, you're still consuming power. So imagine if you left it every day, you charge at home, maybe you have 2 chargers. Yeah. So you have one in your bag that you bring to work and another one at home. And the one at home, when you're done charging, you just leave it in there and it's still on at the socket. Imagine what that would mean for about a month.
Yeah, I mean, energy and consumption is a function of the wattage, as in the capacity of the equipment, and also the time, how long the equipment has been in. So you may say that, in fact, for example, the CFL lights and the LED lights, the chargers that do not consume much, even though they do not consume so much, if you leave it on for several hours, when you multiply that by the time you leave it on, that gives you quite a significant amount of power consumption for you, as whether you're a business or you are an individual. At the house, at the business level, sometimes we leave our ACs unattended to, and it's quite interesting that you have people wearing suits going to the office, put on their ACs to about 17 degrees, 16 degrees, and you could see they are shivering. Well, ACs have thermostats that could be regulated, let's say to 24, 25 degrees.
Wait, does it mean, for example, when it's at 24 or 20, let's even say 20, it's consuming less than when it's at 16?
Yes, I mean,
is that the idea?
It's a thermostat. So the cooler you would want your room to be, the more energy you would consume. It's just like the AC in your car and the fuel consumption. I mean, the higher the cooler, the more you freeze your car, the more you consume fuel. Yes, right. So basically, it's a function of time and also a function of the consumption, the capacity of the gadget. So yeah, these practices that really tend to waste energy. Sometimes there are so many things, as Silvana was saying, leaving our chargers, which most of us are corporates, leaving our TVs on standby mode. Sometimes we charge overnight, and these chargers usually take 2 to 3 hours to get fully charged, but we sleep for on average 4 to 6 hours, and
so that's an extra 2 to 3 hours always going
yes
into it.
And even, I mean, this is even the device itself, we are not really taking care of it so well. I mean, these practices. So
I suppose this could apply to laptops and the rest as well.
Yes, it does.
Wow.
So these things are very important for us to take note of.
Okay. So are you done with the low-end gadgets? You spoke about fans, maybe phones as well. Which other ones are low consumption before I come to the high end?
Okay, so, well, as you rightly said, the one at the bottom of the list we have is the LED bulbs.
Okay.
Okay, so even with those ones, well, let me put some figures to it. LED bulbs are efficient bulbs, right? Okay. But if you should turn it on for a whole day, so let's take a 38 watt LED bulb. For a whole day, it could cost you 60 pesos.
Right.
As low as 60 pesos.
Right.
But let's consider the fact that you may have 5 of those.
You say as low as, but even 60 pesos.
It's not so cheap.
By 7 days, by 30 days. You are looking at quite just one bulb.
Yeah, exactly my point. So if you have 5 of those, that's like 3 cities, right, in a day. And then you do a week. You're running into over 20 cities for 5 bulbs. So consider the cost for a year. That's
that would be 21 CDs a week. That would be almost 100 CDs a month, just on a light bulb.
Yes. And these are energy efficient bulbs we are talking about here.
So how about the non-energy efficient ones? Then that one, I guess, lau, lacry, that's what would happen. Okay, so let's talk now about the heavy duty ones, even at home, and the ones that we can also take stock of, because we're putting both of them together because in your office, for your business, your small scale business, and at home, we are usually using the same gadgets now. Nowadays, people have fridges, ACs, all of those things, even kettles in their kitchens, microwaves. So all of these things we're talking about that we find in our homes are also being duplicated or replicated in our offices. So it's the same thing. Let's talk about the high-end ones.
So as you could see from the screen, some of the consumption bands were placed in red colors, and others were placed in a lighter colors. So the ones at the top, you could see electric cookers, ACs consume so much electricity, and its wattage, its unit consumption rate is quite high. So if you multiply it by the number of hours these equipment will stay on, that gives you a very high end electricity usage. Microwaves and kettles, those smaller units that they are quite cheap on the market, but sometimes we don't suspect that they consume so much. They consume about that's about 1,000 watts energy capacity. So
that's deadly. Yeah, if deadly for your pocket.
Yeah, if you use this one for an hour, that gives you 1,000 watt hour. That is equivalent to 1 kilowatt hour, and that's 1 unit of electricity being used. And as we talk about in the Ghanaian parlance. Rice cooker seems quite innocent, but it's also largely a huge consumption, so 800 watts. Blender is also seems innocent, but as you can see, it's even
310
more consuming than the refrigerators and the deep freezers that we have.
Wow.
Yeah. So imagine leaving these gadgets on standby and.
But hold it right there, Charles. Let's look at the blender. You're looking at 3 hours of using it.
No. So right? what this one's the time talks about is how long these gadgets would take to consume a unit of electricity. So how long does it have to be on for you to consume a kilowatt hour, which is a unit of electricity. You know that in Ghana, we consume our electricity based on kilowatt hour measures. So 1 unit is equivalent to 1 kilowatt hour of electricity.
Okay.
And yes.
So for the blender, what it means, it takes 3 hours.
Yes. It takes about 3 hours of working time to consume a unit of electricity. That's right. Given the power, the wattage. You can have more efficient blenders, but on the average, these are the kinds of wattages we see on the market.
Okay.
That is why it's important that you also look out for the Energy Star rating to buy more efficient electronic appliances.
While for computers and television sets, it's a bit low, you would realize that the killer there is the electric cooker, and especially the ACs as well. And then right beneath that, microwaves and kettles.
Yeah.
Let's talk about tips. How can we be energy efficient? Especially in our setting where renewable energy is not so easy to come by, so to speak. So maybe you can wrap up with renewable energy, what we can do in our businesses and in our homes, and you would address the other angle when it comes to the tips, what we can do.
Okay, so if you have an AC, I would recommend that you make sure you have airtight doors so that you don't allow for air to come in. I mean, it's supposed to be enclosed. Now, you turn off lights when you do not need them. You turn off ACs when you do not need them. You put off the switches on the walls, not simply putting off, say, the TV with the remote.
Right.
And then there's also the bit about fridges and refrigerators. Opening it, the more often you open it, that's when it consumes more.
Don't even open, leave it open,
Leave it
doing
open.
something. People do that sometimes.
You know, and I have a friend, I didn't want to say this, but I think I should say it. I have a friend who has a photograph of everything in his fridge. So he takes a snapshot of what is in the fridge so that when he opens, he knows what to pick. He knows where to pick it so that he doesn't stand by the fridge for so long, you know?
That's interesting.
And so, yeah. So these tiny or these little practices that we tend to be oblivious of, we tend not to be so conscious about. I think it's about time we started paying attention to those ones.
And that can save you a lot in terms of your pocket. Let's wrap up with renewable energy, what we can do on the individual and collective level.
Yeah, so basically, energy transition has come to stay, and renewable energy is really in the market. A lot of companies supplying renewable energy in bulk, and there are so many payment protocols that you can do in order to even pay for that. For a household who may not be able to afford, or for an SME that may not be able to afford, let's say, the perceived high upfront cost towards installing renewable energy, I think that you could start on a very incremental basis. Some few kilowatts of capacity, renewable energy capacity, and as you improve on your systems, you would increase it, and you use it alongside the conventional energy sources. I think that leads us to first of all reduce our costs, and also kind of ensure some level of energy efficiency in the things that we do.
Okay, so finally, to cap it all off, the Africa Center for Energy Policy has started this project. We've delved a bit into it. I just want you to finally remind all of our viewers about what this policy is. What should they be looking forward to?
Yeah, so basically we would also be coming out with a guide for SMEs in accessing renewable energy technologies. You look at the market, you would look at the places where they can get some of these technologies. You look at some of the financial options that are available for them to adopt renewable energy. And we have financial institutions who have really cool green financing deals that can help them to provide this adoption. So we are generating a simple guide, very practical and easy to use guide that will be able to spell out all of these things. And it will be ready within this month, and I think you should.
And it will be accessible to the SMEs.
Accessible to everybody This is ASEP GIZ collaboration, and I believe that it is going to be something that will be beneficial for SMEs, will be beneficial for individuals, and will also be beneficial for even the renewable energy market as well, for us to all promote and then ensure a more sustainable environment that we live in.
So let's conserve energy and let's make our country, well, even in the pocket, let's make our country better individually and collectively. I want to say a very big thank you to Charles Ofori, Policy Lead, Climate Change and Energy Transition, and Silvana Zuana, Policy Analyst with ASEP. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
So from here, we're going to get into something else that has been very topical. It has to do with Daniel Yao Domelevo, the Auditor General. We have Manuel Kranting, my colleague, who is live there. He's going to be telling us what exactly is happening there. Has the Auditor General showed up? We'll find out. Manuel Kranting, a very good morning to you, if you can hear me. Give us the scoop. What exactly is transpiring at the Audit Service this morning?
Yes, so Benjamin, just as he posted on his Facebook wall that he was resuming work today, March 3, 2021, the Auditor General, Daniel Yao Domelevo, just a moment ago showed up. And as I earlier spoke to Mamavi, I made a point that his spot where he's supposed to be parking was actually empty. But this time around, he entered through this other entrance, which is just adjacent the Controller and Accountant General's Department. And so entered through the back of the facility, and he's settled. We have confirmation that he's entered the office. But questions that we want to find out from the Public Affairs Directorate of the services, whether or not he was giving the keys before he arrived or he took the keys when he arrived here. I can give you confirmation also that just about some 10 minutes after he entered, the vehicle that actually dropped him and actually drove him into the facility also moved out, and it's just moved out just a short while ago. We do not know exactly where that vehicle is going to. But as I am speaking to you at this moment, just about some 15 minutes ago, Daniel Yao Domelevo, the Auditor General, reported to work, and we're trying to get access into the facility. The security officials here are denying us entrance just yet. They are telling us to wait for the Public Affairs Directorate, which really is not reported to the premises just yet. So we're trying to lurk around here a bit longer to see if we can get a word from Mr. Domelevo on what the correspondence has been between himself and then the service, by extension also the board of the service, given the fact that the board had categorically said that they were expecting that he would be proceeding on retirement after they found out that documents that he had filed to SNIT, etc., said that he was born on June 1, 1960, instead of the June 1, 1961 that he had corrected in 1993. So generally, that's the picture here. We do not have too much of action here. He's been inside for about 15 minutes, and there's not been any activity just yet. And you remember that the last time that he reported here to check on some documents, as he said, his office and the keys to the office had been changed, and it became a huge issue. Today, we've not seen anything of that sort just yet, and so we are still here trying to find out how the day will progress. Benjamin.
Well, interesting times, because I was going to ask you about exactly that. At least he's been ushered into the building. Whether he will have access to his office is another matter altogether. But what can you tell us about the mood of Daniel Yao Domelevo as he actually came there to the audit service? What was the mood? Did you get to capture what his mood was?
Well, Benjamin, it will be really difficult to give you an express description of his mood, because the vehicle in which he was seated, the Toyota V8 Land Cruiser that he was seated in, had the back windows tinted, and so really could not catch a glimpse of his face as he moved on past us until he got down from the vehicle and accessed the building. But I can tell you of the mood of the workers here. For most of them that I actually spoke to ahead of his arrival here, they didn't even know whether or not he was going to show up, and whether indeed he was going to go ahead to report as he had posted on Facebook. A lot of the security officials and others who are here are being tight-lipped. Well, nobody is agreeing to say anything to us. All directions and all routes, we are told, are supposed to be leading to the office of the Public Affairs Directorate, which my checks as of right now reveals that there's nobody in that office. The office is locked, and so we do not have an official statement from the Public Affairs Directorate of the Audit Service. But that is generally the mood here. People are going about their normal duties as they would, and except that nobody is agreeing to say anything to us on what might or might not have changed in the absence of Daniel Yao Domelevo.
So there you have it, at least as far as this morning is concerned. We know that we have the Auditor General in the building, actually having some interaction with the authorities, and we're going to be finding out what that conversation generates in the coming hours. We'll find out what exactly that generates in the coming hours, and whether or not the Auditor General will take up this matter on any front, whether legally or otherwise. But per what the Audit Service has been telling us, he shouldn't even be in that position anymore because he is on retirement. Let's take a bit of a breather here, and we shall return on the AM show for the very last leg. Do stay.